Okay, it is
Okay.
noon straight up. So Genesis, if you would like to say a few words and get us started.
Yes, of course. Good morning slash afternoon, everyone. I know it depends on the time zone, but over here is noon. So, uh, thank you for being here. Yes, my name is Genesis Lezama. I work for Valley Association for Independent Living here in the McAllen location. I am the Parent Transition Services coach, and what I do is I train individuals with disabilities to transition into, um, adulthood, being more independent, and just giving them the tools. I collaborate a lot with community partners and parents. And so that's why I was like so excited that Consolidated Planning Group invited me to, be a partner in these presentations, because I love, just contributing and sharing all the important information that we need so our community can be successful. So yes, thank you.
Well, thank you for having us, and everybody who is here and who will come in. Thank you for joining us today. I'll go over kind of how this works before we get started in case you haven't seen one of our webinars before. Since we're in webinar mode, we cannot see you or hear you, but I do have a count of how many people are here, so I know you're out there. We love questions and comments, so you're welcome to put anything in the chat box if you have a question. I will get to as many of your questions as possible. If it seems like you put a question in and I'm ignoring it, that probably means that I'm about to get to that in a couple more slides, so don't panic. Also, today's webinar and all of our webinars, we record them and then we put them on our YouTube channel. So if you need to step away or if you want to see some of our previous webinars, it will be on our YouTube channel. Also, we are going to email you that link, and we're going to email you a copy of the slides. So that also brings me to our podcast. We have a podcast as well. So if you're listening on our podcast and you would like a copy of the slides, you can just email us. The email address is contact@cpgcares.net, and we can get you a copy of the slides for today's presentation. So today we're going to be talking about key steps to achieving transition success. There's a lot to know, and we're going to kind of hit things at a high level. But like I said, if you have any questions, you can feel free to put them into the chat box. So let's talk a little bit about who we are and why we're here presenting this and why you should even listen to us, right? So Consolidated Planning Group is a holistic, special needs focused financial planning firm. We're located just outside of Houston, and we serve families all across Texas and all across the United States, as a matter of fact, who have loved ones with special needs. We have over 30 years of experience with insurance and financial services, members of the $1 Million Roundtable. We're fully licensed in insurance and securities. So basically anything that you think of that a financial advisor does, we do that. But we also take it further by really focusing on benefits for special needs families, how to save money so it won't affect the benefits, everything you need to know, all of the ins and outs as it relates to planning for a loved one who might need care for the rest of their lives. We are members of the Special Needs Planning Academy, and we are nationally certified as Social Security advisors. We help families with protection plans, how to protect your family in the future, financially, being able to take care of them. How much is that lifetime care going to cost? Most people are concerned with saving for their retirement. A husband and wife, for example, would want to save enough money for them to have a good retirement. But when you have a family member who has some sort of a lifetime care need, sorry, that is kind of like a third bucket of retirement that you need to save for. And it's difficult, but we help families through the process. We help with transition planning, setting up ABLE accounts, and of course, advocacy and education, because it's complicated and you need an expert who really understands. The owner of our company has 2 special needs daughters, and that's why we do what we do, and we're here to serve. So in the United States, there are over 263,000 financial advisors, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 263,000. But fewer than 0.1% of all of those advisors focus on special needs planning. So you are definitely in the right place when you speak with us. So here are some ideas of things that you can be thinking of right off the bat to get started with planning for the future. A letter of intent is very important, and we're going to get into all these things. Working with a special needs planner to help you formulate a plan. Like I said, you want experts who know all there is to know about this very specialized field. Working with an estate planning attorney who is well-versed on special needs matters. For some of the things that you're going to need, you will need an attorney. Those things are like your will, a special needs trust. If guardianship is in your future, you'll need an attorney for those things. Now, at Consolidated Planning Group, we are not attorneys, but we can refer you to attorneys that we trust all over the state of Texas if you need that. You want to gather up all your planning documents. What have you already done? What is in place? What is going well? What did you wish was going better? And think about your vision of how you want the future to be for yourself and for your child or children. What are your hopes and dreams? What are your goals? And how are we going to help get you there? Okay, so the first thing on that list was the letter of intent. A letter of intent is a very important part of planning, because if something were to happen to you tomorrow and somebody else needed to step in and take care of your family, this letter tells them everything they need to know to take care of your loved one. It actually helps ensure that your trustee or a guardian who steps in after you knows all about your child's routines, their abilities, their strengths, their struggles, likes and dislikes, all of that kind of stuff. So before my career in finance, I was an English teacher, English and literature. So from an English teacher's perspective, when we're thinking about writing a letter of intent, what I would suggest is that you do it electronically so that you can easily get in and edit in the future. But start with the facts. Who is your child? Where were they born? Who are their doctors? What are their diagnoses? What do you already have in place, like your trust and who the guardians are? Where do you keep important information? Things like that. Start with the facts, and it will be much easier that way, because the facts, they just are what they are. And it will lead you into thinking more about the rest of the items that can go on in this letter. For example, what do you hope for their future? What do they like? What do they hate? You know, if you serve my child anything other than chicken nuggets, you can prepare for a full meltdown, because that's all they eat is chicken nuggets. Or if you try to put my child to bed at night and they don't have that special stuffed animal, it is not going to happen. You know, all of those things that we know as parents, and even sometimes one parent knows more than the other parent, right? Because one parent takes care of this section of the family life and the other parent takes care of this section of the family life, so they might even need some guidance. But this is a list of things that can go in your letter of intent if they apply to you. You know, what is that medical history? What government benefits are you getting? educational history, if there's any employment history, recreation, fitness, hobbies, if you have specific religious and spiritual values, all of that kind of information. And what I would say is, like I said, do this electronically, because as your family grows and evolves and your child grows and evolves, you're going to want to edit this. And then I would say, print the most recent version and have it someplace safe and let people know where it is. I mean, you don't necessarily have to share it immediately, but just let people know, hey, if anything ever happens, there's a document in my desk drawer in a yellow folder or whatever. And then save it on your computer as well, so that maybe 6 months, maybe every 6 months, you take a look at it and make sure everything is still accurate. If you make any changes, then print the latest version and stick it in that yellow folder. And this is going to be invaluable to anyone who might have to step in and take care of your child. We do have a template for this. If you feel like you need a template, we can provide you with that. It's form fillable and it's like 20 pages. But you don't need a template to be able to do this. If you want one, though, just let us know and we'll email that out. Another thing that you need to be thinking of, and I know that this is something that probably keeps many of you awake at night, is how am I going to pay for my child to be taken care of once I'm gone? The first step is that you want to make sure that they can get all of the benefits that they are entitled to through state and federal funding. There's SSI, SSDI, all kinds of things, Medicaid, Medicare, that will help. And that's part of how your child's care will be funded. You can establish a special needs trust. A special needs trust is one place where you can have money for your child where it will not affect their benefits. Like I said, you will need to speak to an attorney to get that set up. But it will help shelter that money from being counted against your child. Your life insurance and your current assets, like your investments and things, can fund that trust. And it's an easy, less expensive way to put money into the trust. So for example, let's say you pay for a large life insurance policy that's going to put $500,000 into the trust when you pass away. You don't have to pay $500,000 to get that amount of money in the future. And it can pass tax-free to your heirs. So that's really cool. And an ABLE account. An ABLE account is another place where you can have funds for your child and it won't count against them. And we're going to talk a lot about ABLE accounts in a few more slides. So someone asked, can we get a copy of this presentation? Yes, I will. I know several more people have joined. So I'll let you know again that we will email the presentation and the slides to you later today. So if there's anything that, is a clickable link, you'll be able to click. Oh, there's one. So this link, for example, you'll be able to click on that later on today when you get the slides. So what should you apply for and when do you need to apply for it? Let's talk about SSI. Your child, before they turn 18, probably will not qualify for SSI because they're a minor, and the Social Security Administration will be looking at the parents' assets and income. And if you have more than like $2,000 or $3,000, depending on your family, how many people are in your family and all of that, whether or not you're married. If you have too much money or too many assets, then your child is not going to get SSI benefits. Now, as soon as they turn 18, they're legally an adult, even though in our hearts, they're still our babies. But they're legally an adult at age 18. So they're going to look at the child's assets and income only. And as long as your child does not have more than $2,000 in their name, or they're not making too much money, then they should be able to get their SSI benefits. So it's best really, although you can call or you can go to the local office, it's really best to apply online. You can start your application like a month early before they turn 18. And it will help save the date in case they don't get to your application until a couple months after the 18th birthday. And then they can back pay you to the birth date. Things can be slow. It can take still up to 6 months to get this all done, but start by going online. Start filling out the online application. They're going to want to see evidence that shows that your child has a disability that began before age 22. So you want to have the medical history, your physician's name, phone number, address, what the diagnoses are, if there are any medications that your child is on, what are they and what are they for? If your child has ever done any work, they want to know the employer and how much they've made. And they're going to want to see bank statements for your child if they have had a job. And you might want to, you might think this is a little bit extra, but that's how we are around here. You might want to talk to your child's doctors before you start this process and say, hey, I'm going to apply for SSI benefits, and they're going to ask to see my child's medical records. So could you please show me Jacob's medical records and let me know what's in there so that I can make sure everything is correct before you send that off to the Social Security Administration. And then you make sure everything is in there that needs to be. So once you apply, here's what is going to happen. First of all, like I said, it could take 6 months, sometimes even longer, for them to make a decision. One thing that is not on this slide, but it is important to know, and nobody knows this, but when you are applying for your SSI benefits, they are also going to fill out an application for you for SSDI, which your child probably will not qualify for. So first, you're going to get a letter saying that you are denied benefits, and you're going to be mad because that makes no sense. Why would my child be denied benefits? They have a disability. They don't have too much money. They don't have any income, but they'll put it in like one little tiny font in the top corner of the letter. Look carefully, because you're going to be denied SSDI, and it's much quicker for them to deny things, of course. But then later on, you'll get a letter saying whether or not you were approved for SSI. So they're going to finalize your file at the local office and then send it to Austin to the Disability Determination Services. And the DDS, Disability Determination Services, goes through everything in the file. They double check, they order those medical records, and they look and make sure that there's enough evidence that your loved one has a disability. You can call DDS if things are taking a while and ask, have you received my file? Is there anything missing? Did all my doctors send in what they need to? Do I need to call and ask somebody for something? So their phone number is here, and they actually do answer their phone, so it's good. So typically you'll fill out your application and then wait maybe a month before you call DDS, okay? Give them some time to get everything and then figure out what's going on. So like I said, there are 2 different kinds of benefits. I kind of mentioned it. There's the SSI that your child should qualify for on their own because they have a disability, they cannot work, and they are broke. Allison likes to use the word indigent. I'm more, your kid's broke, they don't have any money. So they should be able to get SSI. There's also benefits that your kids can draw from your record, or if they are able to work a little bit, but they still have a disability and they build up their own Social Security record. This benefit has a lot of different names. Some people call it SSDI or Disabled Adult Child DAC benefits. They called it that for about 40 years. And then last year they switched it to CDB, Childhood Disability Benefits. So if you're talking to someone at the Social Security Administration and they say one of these things, they all kind of mean the same thing. So once your child gets on that benefit, then, and they're on there for 2 years, then they're going to be eligible for Medicare. SSI comes along with Medicaid, and so do the waiver programs. But then later on in life, this benefit will come with Medicare. So this is like, okay, I've been working my whole life. I become disabled, or I pass away, or I start drawing my own Social Security benefits. At that time, when one of those 3 things happens, my disabled child will be able to draw from my record. If I'm alive, the number is half. They get half of whatever I get, and it doesn't take away from my benefits. It's an additional benefit for them. So they'll get half. And then when I pass away, their benefit amount will go up to 75% of whatever I was getting. So it's a great benefit for them, and it lasts for the rest of their lives. So that's why it's so important that you don't do anything to jeopardize these benefits. Now, if I have 3 or 4 or 5 people drawing off of my benefits in different categories, so let's say my spouse gets some sort of spousal survivor benefit, and then there's a child in care benefit if my spouse is taking care of my disabled child that they could get. Then my child gets their benefit, and then maybe I have more than one special needs child. There are family maximums. So if you have a lot of people drawing off of your record, you might run into the family maximum and have to be, have those benefits limited a little bit. So again, make sure that your assets and your child assets are in the right places, that they don't have too much, that, you don't have anything like your life insurance, your investments, your bank accounts, anything that has a beneficiary on it, you want to check and make sure that your child is not listed on there, because when you pass away and those benefits transfer over to your child, or those assets transfer over, all of a sudden they're not going to qualify for benefits anymore. And make sure that, if there's a loving grandma and grandpa or a great aunt who wants to leave your child money, thank you, that's wonderful. Make sure they do it correctly. It needs to be left anytime that your child is going to get money left to them. It needs to be left to their trust, not to them directly. So in your will, you might say, all of my assets are going to go to the special needs trust for the benefit of Jacob Morris. And I keep using my own son's name because it's easier. Or, you don't want to say it goes to Jacob Morris. Then you also want to check the company that has your life insurance. It has to be listed on their paperwork as well. And it has to be listed on your bank accounts and all of that, that the money goes to the trust for the benefit of the child, not straight to the child. Okay. Make sure grandma and grandpa and anybody, and you might say, we don't expect that you're going to leave money for Jacob. But if you do, this is how you can do it correctly so that he won't be messed up in the future. So just make sure that you have your money in the right buckets, meaning that you can have it in that special needs trust. You can put money from your current life insurance and assets into that trust. And you can also have an ABLE account for your child. Let's talk a little bit about the trust and guardianship. So the trust will help you make sure that, like I said, it won't be counted against them. They can have money saved up, and it will help preserve that benefit eligibility. You need an attorney to set that up for you. You need a special needs planning firm who is also a financial firm to help you find money to put into that trust. How are we going to fund that and how much do we need? That's where we come in. You'll also need an attorney to help you with guardianship. Now, we had a great webinar about guardianship earlier this week. There are alternatives to guardianship. There's a lot that you need to know. The process of guardianship can begin 6 months before your child turns 18, and it's a legal proceeding. There is a court date, there is a hearing, there is paperwork served to the child, and you have to work with a qualified attorney to get all of that set up. I mean, my best friend is a family law attorney. She does divorces, though. She doesn't do guardianship. And so she even says, I don't want to take on that work because I don't know everything about it. So you definitely don't want someone who is a real estate attorney, or your cousin who just got their their legal licensing and they're going to do it for cheap. You're going to spend more money fixing issues than you would have spent in the first place. So just find a qualified attorney who can help you with these things. And like I said, we do have lists that we can refer you to some. All right, we're about halfway through. I am keeping an eye on the chat box for questions, so I see those coming through. If you have any questions, feel free to jump in. So let's talk about ABLE accounts. Most people have heard of the 529 college savings plan. So the ABLE account is very, very similar. As a matter of fact, it's part of the same tax code. 529C is for college. It's easy to remember that way. 529C accounts are for college savings. 529A is the ABLE account. So when you open up an ABLE account, the person that you open it for, the beneficiary, is the owner of that account. They can have one ABLE account and anyone can put money into it. So it would be another good place for you to say, hey, if you want to leave a little bit of money for Jacob, you can put it in his ABLE account. Now, there are limits on how much you can put in. We'll get to that. But you put the money in, it gets invested and it grows, and then you are not taxed on that growth. So that's really cool. Unfortunately, you can't take your contributions off of your taxes as deductions federally. Now, some states do allow you to take that off as a deduction off of your state income taxes. But since we live in Texas and Texas does not have state income taxes at all, well, that's kind of a moot point then. It doesn't jeopardize their Medicare or Medicaid or any other benefits from the government. But like I said, let's get into those contribution and distribution limits in one more slide. So you can pay with your ABLE account. You can pay for financial management, transportation, education, training, assistive technology, personal support services, legal expenses. You can pay for financial planning. You can pay for the attorney to put together the trust, whatever you want with the ABLE account. And a note on the bottom there, an ABLE account can pay for food and shelter without reducing your SSI benefits. So basically, ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. So if there is something that you want to pay for and it makes your child's life better, you can use the ABLE account as long as they have a disability. So the participants of the ABLE account, anyone who has a disability that began before age 26. Contributions can be made by anybody, and the contribution limit for each year is equal to whatever the gift tax exclusion is that year. So for 2023, the limit is $17,000. You can put $17,000 for 2023 into the ABLE account. Now, if your child is working and wherever they're working, there's not an employer-sponsored retirement plan, then they can put more into the account, and that amount hidden by the chat box, is $13,590 additional dollars into the ABLE account if they have a job. Now, it is very important to remember that you cannot, well, you should not put more than $100,000 total into the ABLE account. Otherwise, the government, the Social Security Administration will say, oh, you have over $100,000 saved for your child. That's enough. You don't need our help anymore. So you want to keep that number under $100,000. Another thing to think about, and I'm kind of skipping down to the bottom of this chart, but at death, the owner of the account, which is your child, when they pass away, if there's any money left in this account, Medicaid can come back and claim reimbursement and take some or all of the money that is left in this account. So you want to use it wisely. Use it up or only put enough in there that you know will be used before your child passes away. Or, if you don't care, which, I mean, it's kind of fair if Medicaid pays all these benefits for your child for years and years and years and years. It's fair that they come back for a little bit of repayment at the end of your child's life. But just be aware of that. You can roll over this account to other family members as long as they qualify. You can change the investments twice a year if you would like to do that. And like I said, anything, if it can be construed as achieving a better life for an individual with a disability, you can pay for it with your ABLE account. So next, let's talk about that trust, the special needs trust. There are a lot of things that your special needs trust can pay for. But that's not really important. What is really important is what your special needs trust cannot pay for. I mean, technically it can, just like technically you can have over $100,000 in your ABLE account, but you don't want to, because if you use your trust to pay for these items, it will cause a reduction in their SSI benefits. So you can use the trust for almost anything. Just don't use it for rent, mortgage payments, real estate taxes, gas, electricity, water, sewage, any utilities, any rent or mortgage, no food, no cash. Don't use it for any of that kind of stuff. So basically the bare minimum things that you need to live, don't pay for them with your trust. But the benefit of having a trust is you can put as much money into it as you want, and that won't affect anything. So these two channels, the ABLE account and the trust, work very well together, because one of them, you can pay for food and shelter and utilities, but you can't have too much money in there. On the other one, you can have as much money as you want, but you can't pay for those items. So they go together, and you need to kind of play the game to make sure that things are in the right places. All right, so when you're thinking about who's going to take care of your child when you no longer can, planning earlier is better. The earlier you start thinking about these things, the smoother it will be in your future. Consider, okay, once they're out of high school, what is going to happen with my child? Do I want them to go to some kind of another education opportunity? There are a lot of great programs that focus on kids who maybe aren't going to go to college in a 4-year traditional degree path. We do whole webinars about that. There are vocational options and training and programs designed to help kids get jobs that fit in with whatever their needs are. So think about what's going to happen after high school. Think about where they're going to live. Do they need full-time residential care at a community like Brookwood or 29 Acres or any of those great communities? Do they need something like that? Do they need a group home? Do they need partial care? There can be long waiting lists for those opportunities. So you want to check into that early and make sure you know ahead of time what you hope for your child. And really think long and hard. I know that a lot of people say, well, If I pass away, Jacob's brother is going to take care of him. I don't need to worry about anything. But that can cause a lot of drama. Jacob might start to feel resentment towards his brother because you're not my dad. You're not my mom. Why are you trying to tell me what to do? And Evan, Jacob's brother, might feel resentment towards Jacob because, hey, I have my own family. I have my own life. I wanted to do all this stuff, and now I'm stuck taking care of you. Even though they have a loving relationship, those things can grow and can come about. So we suggest that you do not just assume that that a sibling is going to care for their loved one. Think long and hard before you plan on that, and keep their relationship loving and supportive and lighthearted and not obligatory or resentful. Okay. Let's talk about another benefit for your child, the Texas Waivers Program. Now, these waivers are meant to provide for some of the costs for your child, some of the things that they're going to need. You want to get signed up for the waiver lists as soon as possible. And you might have heard about this, are you on the waiting lists or are you on the interest list? That kind of thing. So these lists, some of them are very short because they serve a smaller range of people, like MDCP and DBMD. You see those listed there. Those are narrower waivers that serve. MDCP is only for children who are medically dependent, and DBMD is only for children who are deaf, blind, and have another disability. So there are fewer people. Now, CLASS and HCS and Texas Home Living and Community First Choice, those lists are extremely long because it serves such a wide variety of people. Almost anyone with any intellectual or developmental disability can get one of those. And those waiting lists right now, I'm hearing 17 years. So even if you hadn't heard about this before and your child is not yet on the waiting list, sign them up now. Even if they don't get these benefits until they're in their 30s, it's still going to be helpful for them. So here's everybody who is here today should call this 1-877 number, because even if you don't qualify for MDCP or DBMD, you should qualify for CLASS. So call that number, get on their waiting list. And then you want to call your local intellectual and developmental disability authority, your LIDA. And there's a link there where you can look up, it's by county. So in Harris County, it's the Harris Center. In some places, it's MHMR or Bluebonnet or Texoma, Texana. There's every county is listed there. And you just look up by county and give them a call and make sure you're on their list as well. Now, the last phone number on this slide is for Star Plus. Star Plus is for 21 years and older children or adults, 21 and older, who are medically dependent. So if they're on MDCP and then they turn 21, they'll switch over to Star Plus. So this is just a listing of all of those waiver programs that are available, and which ones your child might qualify for, who they serve. And I'm not going to go through all of these, but just know that the waiting lists are long and you want to get on all of them because you just want to take advantage of whichever one you qualify for that comes up first. Now, when you call to get on the list, you do not have to prove that your child has any kind of disability. You're just putting your name on the list. Then when they come up on the list is when you have to prove that they have a disability. And that's kind of important, especially for, let's say that your child has something where they're losing their eyesight and hearing. They're not deaf or blind yet, but they're on the way. You can still sign them up for the deaf, blind, multiple disabilities waiver. And then when their name comes up, maybe they will have lost their sight by then, or maybe things have changed. Now, the thing with that one is I think the waiting list is only like a year long. So not that much changes that quickly usually, but anyway, here's all the waiver programs. What do they pay for? Oh, I don't have that slide. Waiver programs, they can help pay for housing. If your housing community accepts the waivers, they can pay for medications, transportation, therapies like music, art, massage, horse therapy, all kinds of stuff. Nursing hours or respite hours for parents. So they are very, very valuable. Some of them, their budget per family is like $270,000 a year. So if you need that much help or any help at all, these are really great programs. All right, I'm still not seeing any questions, so I'm going to continue on. As I mentioned, we do webinars all the time. We put them on our YouTube channel, so you can check there if you're interested in seeing some of our past webinars. But these are the kinds of things that we talk about in our webinars and things that we help with. Developing that comprehensive special needs care plan, figuring out a future care cost estimate. It's not just, okay, what does a residential community cost right now? But if you're going to be taking care of your child for the next 20 or 30 years, and then when you pass away, they go to a community, how much is it going to cost in 20 or 30 years? And if your child lives there for 20 years, how much total will that cost? We can help you put together an estimate for that. Making sure you're on those interest lists, SSI and SSDI, which come with Medicaid and Medicare, and what the differences are and how to apply. ABLE accounts, beneficiary designations, special needs trusts. One quick note, and I do see a question came in, I'll get that after I get this slide done. On your special needs trust, if child support is a thing in your life, and your child is going to get child support even after they turn 18 because of their disability, that child support will be counted as income to your child. Because it's coming straight to them. And because it will be coming straight to them, it needs to go into a first party special needs trust, where it will not count against their benefits, but it will have to have that Medicaid repayment clause that we talked about a little bit before with the ABLE account. It's just because of how the money is coming, and it's your child's money, so it goes into the first party trust. Everything else, that they inherit will go into the third party trust. It's a little confusing right there, we know, but that's just how it has to be done. So child support beyond age 18, talk to your attorney and have them redirect that to a first party special needs trust. Okay, residential living communities, I already mentioned the lists can be long, so look into those early. We do have a list of residential living communities in Texas. We have also done several webinars where we have a whole bunch of these communities just present and tell a little bit about their community. It's kind of like speed dating. We let everybody have like 3 or 5 minutes, which is even better than a list. So I would suggest that you check that out. But if you do want just like a spreadsheet, we can send that to you too. Just let us know. Guardianship, that can begin 6 months before the kid turns 18. And then those post-high school educational and vocational options are all out there. When we send this slide deck, you can click right here. It will take you to our website, and under the events tab on our website, that's where this will open up. It will tell you about all of our upcoming webinars, so you can register for those. This is the fantastic team that I work with. Allison and Jeff are the owners of the company. They are in Sugar Land, just outside of Houston, and there's myself and my husband, Andy. We are in Missouri City. We all have kids. My kids are 22 and 19. And then we have a fantastic support staff that keeps us in line and makes sure all of our paperwork gets done and all of the phone calls are made. I want you to take a quick look at these smiling faces. And I want to let you know that because you registered for this webinar, we have your phone number and your email address, and we're going to reach out to you. We're going to try to see if you have any additional questions or if you want to set up a free consultation with us. And when these nice ladies call you, please don't hang up on them. They're just doing their jobs. I do it too, and Andy. So we call, and in order to stop us from calling, one thing you could do is schedule your own consultation before we call you. You can use this QR code, or you can call us or email us. Again, if you're on our podcast, the email is contact@cpgcares.net. So during this consultation, we want to answer any immediate questions that you have, just so that we can put your mind at ease over whatever it is that you've been worrying about. We want to get to know about you and your family, and then we'll tell you about us, how we work, what we charge, and things like that, and see if we're a good fit. There's no commitment. It's totally free. You're not required to do anything after you have the consultation. Of course, we hope you will, but it's no problem if you don't. We also have our links here for the YouTube channel, the Instagram account, podcast, and Facebook. So you can check all of those out as well. It looks like we're a few minutes early today, so if you have any other questions, I will just leave it on this slide for a few more moments. I'll see if any other questions come in, but if not, I just really want to thank all of you for being here today. Thank you to Genesis for hosting us and for sharing us with your families. Feel free, please, to share if you have any family or friends or other people that you know who might be helped by our information. Tell them about our webinars. We would love to help as many people as possible, whether they're in Texas or not. All right.
Hey, Michelle, I had a quick question.
Good. Okay.
Here in the Valley, the majority of our consumers are Spanish speakers. I was wondering if you had a Spanish version.
We, I don't think that we have a Spanish version of this webinar. I can check into it. We don't have anyone on staff who is fluent in Spanish either, unfortunately. So it is a little bit difficult when we have a client who only speaks Spanish. We do our very best. But if they can bring someone with them or schedule this consultation where they have someone sitting with them who speaks English and Spanish, their own translator, that would be fantastic.
I was wondering, like, if somebody calls you and is like, hey, like, I saw this video from Veo, I live in McAllen, like, could I help translate? Like, would that be okay? Or
oh, yes, that would be fine. We would love that.
Okay, yes.
Yes, we can definitely work that out.
Okay, yes, I just wanted to
thank you, Amy. Thank you for the kind words, Amy. I think, am I going to see you this weekend at a pizza luncheon, Amy? Anyway, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
It was great to be here. and Amy, I'll see you on Sunday. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great day.